this is Joe, my student for today, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at something called a medicine ball. Some of you may have seen these before in gyms, or just in the general populace. Two types of medicine ball here. We've got our basic original, if you like, with no handles. We've got a handled one which I'll bring in a little cameo role for a little bit later on. So, a brief part about the history of the medicine ball. Been around for about 3,000 years, back to Persian times. But it was those times it was used for sort of strength and power athletes to improve their strength and their power and their coordination. Back in ancient Greece, when they had Hippocrates, the philosopher and physician, started using these for rehabilitation, hence the name medicine ball. That's where it basically came from. And it really came into prevalence at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, where it entered the dictionary and started being used by wrestlers and other sports people for very specific power-based movements. Now what we're finding is it's found in everyday gym activity, and as I'm hopefully going to show you, you can use it for a good range of bits of equipment, exercises. So, first things first, we'll move these out of the way for the time being. Just a brief thing about how people move. Okay, so in life, we've got so many movements we produce on a daily basis that would be too much to keep stored in the brain. So what the brain does is it generally has 6 movement patterns stored up. On the lower body, those will be the squat, a movement we use on a daily basis, the lunge. Just imagine walking upstairs, it's a movement we use quite frequently, and the bend to extend when we're picking things up from the floor. Great. And in the upper body, we've got our push, we've got our pulls, and we've got our rotation. So basically, everything we do is based on these 6 movement patterns. Now, if we can get each movement pattern nice and strong and perfect, we can move them towards more explosive movements, as we're going to look at with the medicine ball. Once that happens, we can combine them together and make some really funky and interesting and really functional type exercises. So, let's look at our first one now. I'm just going to choose a few movement patterns. We'll start off with the squat. So, we do a kind of muscular endurance base. I'll have a little wander around, make sure our client's technique is nice. We can put some arm positions in, of course some coordination between the 2 movements. We can even have a swing with these, and just trying to make sure that the movement pattern is nice and strong. Once we're happy that that movement pattern is strong, we can make it a little bit more explosive. So we can make it, knowing now that we're safe, we can make it into a more explosive jump. Okay, let's throw those arms in there as well. Ooh, that ceiling's getting close, but it's all good. Perfect. Right. So, we've got our basic squat movement, and we've just progressed that very smoothly. What we're then going to look at is a lunge movement. So, Joe, if you just give us a sagittal lunge. I'm just making sure, once again, nice good posture, nice good knee alignment, no problems and issues with that. We move to a frontal lunge, so lunges to the side, through here. And the reason we've got the medicine ball in, once again, it loads up the shoulders, but also gives us a little bit extra weight. The medicine ball will range from 1 to 10 kilos. Okay? We can then make it a little bit more powerful. In fact, let's do a travelling lunge if we like. So now, once we've done a static version, we can make it a little bit more in depth. Make sure that our client is able to do these kind of farmer's walks along with a nice technique. And we're happy with Joe's technique, so we're thinking, right, let's now progress him on to something more explosive and powerful. So Joe, if you'd like to wander through just a lunge jump. Good. And because we've progressed him from the basic movements, we know that he should be nice and strong with those movements there. So we move to a push pattern. So, okay, first of all, pass it back to the show. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with one ball. You just take that on there. And we're going to get our client into position, using the ball, a little bit unstable, and now we're really loading the core up quite heavily. Okay? And that's on one unstable surface. So we try 2 unstable surfaces, loading that core up a little bit more fully. And of course we could put a 3rd one under his feet to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe not for him, but definitely for me. Okay, so what we've got ourselves to that position there. We can then make it a little bit more explosive as we be moving through the rest of them. And he's now powering up off the floor, giving us some explosive pushing actions. Okay? And we can do it off of one ball. Great stuff. Tremendous. And we can do this in a standing position. If we need to stay away from the push from the floor and move to a more vertical standing position and push horizontally in front of you, we can power it back out like so. Really getting some power through the upper body. Or we can take them down to the floor and combine both movements, a push in a standing position and a push in a horizontal position, and take our climb from here. Good. Keep ourselves going. Tremendous. Okay, so we do some pushes. Now Joe's working pretty hard, as you've seen. He's only doing a few reps, but he's in a world of pain right now. Cumulative. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Okay, right. So if you can face the guys onto your bum, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at rotations before we start combining movements together. If you just bring yourself into the mirror, we're moving further and further away from those guys. Excellent. Right. So there you go, Joe. So we're going to get Joe to take his legs off the floor. We're going to load his core up. He's nice and controlled now. We're starting to get used to this nice controlled movement. Let's bring in a little bit of power. A little bit more explosive in his movements now. This is the one which Joe's been waiting for. Thank you very much. A little use of this ball here. Now there's loads of uses of this, but one of the benefits of having the handles is we can turn it into a different type of piece of equipment, something called a tornado ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Joe to just hold on to there. Now we're going to use the momentum of this ball to really load his core quite heavily. So he's going to actually hit on either side. Hopefully you can see the look on his face. That one's a little bit of a painful exercise. And once again, these are progressions. You wouldn't put someone onto these straight away. This would be once you're happy to move them up to those next levels. So we've taken 4 of his movements patterns. We've progressed them to a nice explosive base. Now let's combine them together. Okay. So what we could do is let's look at a squat with a push. Oh, in fact, let's look at a lunge of rotation first of all. So what I'd like you to do, Joe, is just walk towards the guys and put a rotation in. Excellent. So what we've got here is, once again, now we're moving with a movement, but now putting a rotation in, just to make sure we're nice and strong with that. We can then, if we like to, move into a more powerful base. So lunge with rotation into a more explosive movement. Once again, loading the system up with nice long arms. And we can take and change the plane, so if you throw that back to us, Joe. And we can take it from side to side now, so take that side lunge on. So I'm going to try it to one side. Okay, and we're trying to develop some coordination on that one leg. Imagine someone working, I don't know, if they like to play tennis, squash, badminton, these movements are being used quite a lot, but we move them to bound back into the other leg. Okay? We've got our squat with rotation, lunge with rotation. We can have a squat with a push. So we start with our basic movement. Once again, doing our muscular endurance scenario. Just making sure that his squat, I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with his push. We can then move into explosive movements. So really powering out on the thrust and getting nice and explosive with those movements. As we see, and hopefully you'll see, we can progress them to more and more advanced activities. Now, some of them are going to be specific for sports people, some just for everyday people just trying to improve their basic strength. As imagine, as our last exercise, so far 3 for 3, we're going to go try a 4th one. If I've got someone who is, I don't know, a gymnast or a, I don't know, breakdancer, street performer, this might be something you can do. And the whole point of this is just to make it look a little bit more explosive. Something you can do. Ready to rock, Joe? And we can make it as funky as we possibly can. Okay? Any questions, guys? And hopefully you see in these balls, nice and easy to use, and effectively, very, very realistic, because this is what we do in everyday life. Load the system up with some momentum, slow it down, and rebound with a nice, powerful